This is your Monday Daily Delivery. I'm Michael Rand, back at it for another week. Patrick Reusse will be with me in just a little bit to talk college hockey, to talk Timberwolves a little bit, and some Twin season preview stuff. Season starts on Thursday, in case you weren't aware, in case you weren't completely drowning in all of the sports that are happening all at once right now. The pandemic confluence of sports is hitting us. It's a beautiful thing in terms of viewing options, but in terms of trying to keep track of everything, it's actually a little bit dizzying and disorienting. I'm trying to keep my head around everything that's happening right now. So, hopefully we'll sort some of this out with Patrick and also at the beginning of the show, because right now I got to do what did I miss? A few things I want to get to in this segment right now that I didn't talk about with Patrick. First thing, Vikings signed 2 more veterans for their secondary recently. Xavier Woods finally got their safety, and Mackenzie Alexander, old friend, coming back to play cornerback, presumably going to man the slot again. So that's 3 veterans they've added in the secondary. Also counting Patrick Peterson, the corner, the very good former Pro Bowl corner that they signed earlier in free agency. So what does that tell you? Well, we've been talking about this the whole time. They have done 95% of their work in free agency has been on the defense, right? They've barely touched the offense except to cut Riley Reif and make a minor trade for offensive lineman Mason Cole. Everything they've done so far has been gearing up to improve a defense that Mike Zimmer said was bad last year, and he wasn't wrong. You can see exactly what their strategy is right now, that they want to improve this defense, that they felt like it was the reason they lost last year, and I think in part it was. I think it was defense and special teams. It told the whole story of last season, but just gearing up with these veterans, a lot of them on one-year contracts, short-term contracts, really gearing up to try to, I don't want to say save jobs, but if we're being blunt, that if we're not being polite, that's kind of what they're doing. They're trying to get it so they still are here in 2022, even if they don't have a lot of these same players. So we'll see if it works. I think giving Mike Zimmer better defensive players is never going to be a bad strategy, but I still am curious to see what they will do on the offensive line at some point here as well. Second thing I want to get to, Randy Dobnak extension, 5 years, about $10 million, could be worth up to about $30 million. Just an interesting extension. First of all, good for Randy Dobnak. Such a cool story, good story. Had a chance to talk to his dad last year for a live video we did while Randy was pitching, and he was dominant. It was when Randy was in Pittsburgh, he's from that area. So it was really cool to kind of get to talk to his dad while that was happening, and just watch him pitch and pitch really well. So he gets some financial security out of this. He's not going year to year anymore, wondering what's my status. Starts the year in the bullpen this year, 6th starter, but you can imagine something's going to happen along the way. He's had a really good spring, so just an interesting contract, though, for the Twins to dive in and just commit to him. It's not a lot of money. It gets kind of full of upside and kind of it feels like a win-win in a lot of cases, but you just don't see teams necessarily do deals like that with pitchers who haven't been more prominent on their roster, to give them those 5-year deals and kind of buy them out of a little bit of the years where they're under team control. So maybe this will be a model for how things work going forward, but I just thought the structure of that contract was really interesting, and we'll see who it ends up benefiting the most as time goes on. Last thing you might have missed, U.S. men's soccer fails to qualify for the Olympics for the 3rd consecutive time, losing to Honduras 2-1 on Sunday. Jackson Ewell had the only goal. He's a Bloomington native, so good for him. Good effort there, but they fall behind 2-0. Can't capitalize on chances. Ewell pulls them within 2-1, but the last 40 minutes they had a lot of chances to tie, just couldn't get it done. So it's disappointing, right? You had the World Cup, failures that they've had in the U.S. Olympics now 3 times in a row that they haven't made it. It's, and again, it's the U23 team, so it's not the full squad. But you're missing out on getting these guys the opportunity to play in, pressure situations, things like that. So U.S. soccer's got to figure these things out. Maybe they're going to be on the upswing soon here, but missing the Olympics is just another bad marker for a team that's had a lot of struggles lately. So we'll see what they're able to do, once we get towards World Cup qualifying in 2022, and if they're able to pull this thing together with the full senior men's national squad.
I'm Nyla Jean Myers, Senior Assistant Sports Editor at the Star Tribune. Thank you for listening to Strip Sports Daily Delivery. This work is made possible by our Star Tribune subscribers. For unlimited access to the articles mentioned in this podcast and our coverage of Minnesota sports from pros to preps, go to startribune.com/subscribe.
Monday on Daily Delivery. Patrick Reusse here, as he is on most Mondays. Got a lot to talk about with Patrick. College hockey. He's got some fun thoughts on college hockey. You've got some Twin stuff to get to as well with the season starting in just a few days. Patrick, welcome. How you doing?
Good, back home. And I got to tell you, between St. Cloud and the Gophers in Mankato, I watched more hockey last night than I've watched this year, except I was at the Wild opener. And it's amazing, when we consider what middle 80s, Herbie's got him to go to the sort of Division One up in St. Cloud, and it took a while. Mankato was playing down there on the prairie. Mankato played independent basically for, most didn't have a conference for a long, long time. It didn't start playing until 69 and 70. St. Cloud State, when I was at St. Cloud State, I went to they had an outdoor rink. They played outdoors, and I went to three of their games, but Mankato didn't have a program left. I left there in 68. But I did a piece on, 50, when Moscow was up there, they kind of redid the arena there. And they did this thing, and I'm not sure when that was, 12 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And, you look back at their schedule, like some years they played like 18, 20 games. Other years they played 6 because it was a warm winter. It's unbelievable. They had no ice. St. Cloud didn't have a city the size of St. Cloud did not have an outdoor rink, an indoor rink.
That's amazing.
And now they're Duluth, of course, has always been dedicated to the sport. In fact, I've been at it for 1,000 years. And the winter I was in Duluth, I was a 20-year-old kid starting my career. They were finishing the first arena in 1966, the deck down there.
Love the deck. Deck was a great old hockey arena.
But I am very grateful that my season up there was spent at the curling club, the old dump on the lake out there. And when the wind blew and you were in there early, you could hear that wind whistling through that whole building out on the lake. And that was last year. That was the last year of Duluth hockey in the curling club, and they moved to the deck after that. But they didn't get to the WCHA until 65, 66, I think. So to have 3 schools from the Northern Sun going to the Frozen Four, it's unbelievable, isn't it? It's
best hockey conference in America, like you texted me. Is Northern Sun, baby. Go get them.
Yeah. Morehead State, was talking about trying to get it started. I don't think they have the money for it a few years ago, but the Northern Sun should say, we don't need any of you. We got our own league. Come on, heck with you. Augustana, they got money. Let's get Augustana. Let's get a hockey league going here at the Northern Sun.
Bemidji State's Northern Sun too, right? They made
right. Yeah, they were in the final 8. Sure.
It could have been an all Northern Sun Frozen Four. Could have been.
Yeah, it would be.
I think it would have.
It would be. But I like Moscow a lot. I know him from St. Cloud, and he's a really good guy. But man, what a butt kicking last night! It was just it was just like that second goal was the killer when they let the guy go around the net and stuff it in. And there's 2 Gophers standing there looking at him coming around the side. And didn't you have a feel? I mean, I had a feeling, and this is not from any expertise on college hockey, but I'd been down there, and I had the impression, because for 4 or 5 years, Mankato's, we don't know it because they're playing in that second class league, but the Mankato's had a wonderful program with great players and goaltending. You got the impression if they ever won one in the tournament that they'd really be tough to beat. And, they're down to Quinnipiac 2-0 after one period the other night. And you're saying, oh my God, they're going to choke it again. And once they won and came back and won that game, I think you're seeing a less pressure-filled team playing, and they got the great goalie too. I mean, but do you think this kid had much choice in life when he was born and they named him Dryden?
I know. I saw that.
As to what position he was going to play.
No,
the old man was a goalie, but you can't be Dryden and be a
wing,
fancy skating left wing or something.
No, his fate was sealed. And yes, I had the exact same I had the exact same thought. So when I was going through the brackets, the college hockey, I was like, you know, I liked in certain regard. I didn't think the Gophers' path was all that bad, and then they showed against Omaha that they were definitely
Yeah.
the class of that game. But the thing I hadn't taken into account was, Mankato, like you said, like they had the history where they just couldn't get past that first round. They had great teams, and probably their best team was a year ago, and the tournament gets
Yes.
canceled. So once you factor in that, but what happens is, again, by the time they were going to get to the Gophers, if they were going to play Mankato, it was going to be after that dam had broken. And man, it sure did last night. They just, it wasn't like a blitz. It wasn't like one of those games where they were just scoring left and right or skating up and down, but they couldn't get anything going. They had 9 shots after 2 periods. There was nothing to it.
Yeah, Motzko, I saw our piece this morning, said, Mankato has this reputation of jumping on people, scoring or grinding it out, getting the early lead, and then they're impossible to beat. And he said we had to do something the first period, and they didn't show up. The amazing thing about hockey, and I'm certainly not a guy who spends a lot of time watching it, but in those situations, when you give up the first one, all of a sudden how the pressure shifts. The example I always use is Tampa Bay. I was down there in Florida and did a bunch of pieces on that team they had.
That. Yeah.
In like 2008, it was 18-19, right? No, who won? They won the cup. Yeah, 18-19.
Yep.
They were unbelievable. They had the incredible points. They scored 50 more goals than anybody. They're starting the playoffs. They're playing Columbus and the personable Torts, and they're up 3-0 in the first period. They lose that game. They choke like dogs, and they get swept in 4 games. And then they come back last year, in the bubble,
and
they win it when they're not nearly as good. They're not nearly as good as they were, and it's so random, and there's so much more pressure in it once you need a goal.
Yeah, and it's like, well, you take hockey, which has got an element of randomness already. Just any game, like you said, that's got so little scoring, the goals become precious. Then you make it a single elimination tournament, and it's the most random. Usually, college hockey, oftentimes, usually it is one of the best teams that ends up winning anyway, just because they show their class, and it does happen.
Yeah.
But there is a certain element of randomness to that tournament that's undeniable.
Oh, did you? Yeah. And did you watch St. Cloud and Boston College? It was the same thing. It was they lose their best player, this Brodzinski, and he gets hurt, and they're down 1-0, and then they get 3, and they just knock the hell out of them. And BC has all these Matt Boldy and all these other high draft choices. They came to play artful, beautiful hockey, and St. Cloud came to run them into the boards. And they beat them. So it is random. I've always wondered one thing about hockey, though, is I know they do it during the regular season, but you play on Friday night or Saturday. In this case, Saturday. You play on Saturday, and then you come right back and play Sunday. Why not? Why not give everybody a day off after a game? Especially, what would have happened if North Dakota or
Duluth,
UMD had to play after playing 5 overtimes.
Right.
The next day, it would have been stupid. So anyway, but hey, it's the Northern Sun Frozen Four.
Northern Sun Frozen Four.
They should have, always Sioux Falls is kind of the capital of the Northern Sun. They should have moved the Frozen Four to Sioux Falls. They got a nice hockey arena down there.
Sure.
Tell Pittsburgh they could have it next year.
Yeah, I love it. Patrick, let's talk Twins for a bit, too, because season starts Thursday. You were down there for quite a while. I know you're back in Minnesota now. But, what? You see the Dobnak extension, which was interesting. You see, just it's an interesting team this year.
I saw them early. I was down there from the second exhibition year. I saw their second from there. And I liked a lot of stuff early. And I like Maeda looked great. And Rios looked great early, and now he looks so good. The deal is, I wanted to see, I know it's no big deal as far as, you can turn it around Thursday, a guy like Kepler, but they did not swing the bats worth a damn.
No.
And you got to remember last year, they didn't hit really. It was pitching that allowed them to win their division and to get into the playoffs. And then they got in the playoffs and they didn't hit.
Right.
And not against first class, high class pitching. I mean, Houston didn't come at you with Garrett Cole last year. No. And Verlander. And
too, yeah.
And then nobody hit. I mean, Sano looks terrible. Kepler is, had a hit on March 1st, and he didn't have his next one until he got a bloop on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Bloop on Saturday. So, he's not hitting. Simmons is your big add-on. A great shortstop.
Yeah.
His hands are unbelievable. But he's not an offensive player.
No.
Garber had a bad year last year. He looked real good early, but he hasn't looked that good lately. Jeffers something was wrong with him. I don't think we've ever reported it, but he didn't play for like 3-4 days.
Huh.
And, he's not hitting. Left field, Kirilloff, I mean, one of the big hopes was Kirilloff and, have the big spring. And I don't think they would have, if he would have had the big spring and hadn't given him an excuse, I think they would have kept him and have him in left field.
Right.
I don't think they're that worried about 2027 free agency or something. But he didn't look that. He hit one home run to center field. He almost knocked down the batter's eye, but beyond that, he never really looked good into the plate. I am really worried about them hitting wise from what I saw this spring, because Sano had a home run the other night. The other afternoon, it was like 700 feet, but it was like a 91 mile an hour fastball down the middle of the plate. Right. He can hit a bad breaking ball, but if you got a fastball with any giddy up and you throw it above his big tummy, he's got no chance. I did a thing on his trouble hitting the fastball, and somebody sent me a stat that last year on the high fastball, when he had 2 strikes, and he swung at it. Yeah, he struck out 100% of the time. 100. Now he had 4 walks all year.
You miss 100% of the swings you don't take and the swings you do take in some cases.
Yes, right. Yeah, I mean, man. I watched him play first base last year for only 60 games, right? And he wasn't good, but he didn't look bad. But down there, honest to God, he looked like a goalie. Everything he couldn't move to his right because he's big again. He's not like 310 like he was at one time, but he's in his 280s. Yeah. He looked really good physically in spring training last year, and then when he came back in June or July, he packed some of it back on. And but he's looked awful at first base, if you ask me.
So who looks good then? You just went through like 6 positions.
Donaldson, I love Donaldson, and I think he's good. And but then again, can he play? And Polanco, I think Polanco can hit. He's fine. And Buxton's, if they play 100, if they can get 135 games out of Buxton, right, they'll be okay, because they're 20% better when he plays, because he makes the fielding. He makes you from a minus team to a plus. Him and Simmons, if he's playing, all of a sudden they're a B defensive team, fielding team, rather than a C minus. And if Buxton plays, and and he looks good. He looks okay at the plate too. I think he's he's probably the key is whether you do offensively. Pitching wise, I don't know. J.A. Happ, I watched him pitch the other day, and the fact he didn't get hit in the head again when a line drive was a miracle. I mean, it was Rocket City. Pineda looked great early, and then he didn't pitch that well later.
They're just working on things, Patrick. They just work. Don't worry about results.
They keep telling us. But I don't know. It's the potential is there to be pretty dang good, but they're going to have to swing the bats a little bit. They're going to have to, Nelly Cruz is going to have to be good again. And Donaldson's going to be their best player, I think, if he's healthy. He's something to watch, man. He's 35 now, but he's still got the bat speed. And he takes hitting seriously, I'll tell you that. Plus, he's a very good third baseman. So, I don't know. I'd say, it could go either way.
Yeah.
It could go either way. And you know what? That's there's the Dodgers and the Yankees as far as finances and everything.
Yeah.
And now, San Diego. But with everybody else, it could go either way. They're optimistic. They're
stay healthy.
Can
you hit?
Milwaukee. But,
are you ready for the second coming of the dead ball era?
That is really stupid, isn't it?
Yeah.
Your big problem is hitting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your biggest problem with baseball is the pitching is becoming more and more and more dominant because they use more pitchers throwing better stuff. And a guy like Sano will never see a pitcher for the third time if it's a RBI situation. He'll see a guy twice, and if he comes up in the fifth inning, he's never going to see a starter if it's an RBI situation. They've made it harder and harder. The other thing is, Mike, analytics, whatever you want to call it, help the pitchers 5 times more than they help the hitters.
Yeah.
Everything is made to make the pitcher better, but the hit, you can't, the hitter, you still got to do the hardest thing there is in sports, which is to hit a moving object. And as pitching's becoming more dominant, these idiots decided to deaden the baseball. They're Manfred is, Manfred's got one small problem. He hates baseball. That's his problem. He hates baseball. I happened to turn on TV the other day, and they were having one of the Ken Burns pieces. I think it was the first one, the introductory one. And, you had all these, Billy Crystal and all these other guys giving this romantic view of baseball. Manfred should sit down and watch that.
You should.
Yeah.
Patrick, let's talk quick about I got to talk NBA with you quick because it's the Thibs revenge game on Wednesday.
Thibs.
We've come full circle because I think the first time you were on this podcast, it was because they were gonna play the Knicks Sunday night. We were gonna talk all about Thibs, and then Ryan got fired like 5 minutes after that game.
Yeah,
so we had to talk Ryan instead. So we got the Knicks game on Wednesday here at Target Center, but first they got to play the Nets tonight. Who
they're in Brooklyn too, right?
In Brooklyn. And the Nets keep adding people in the buyout.
Yeah,
they got Blake Griffin,
stupid.
they got Aldridge, they already got Harden. I mean, what's that?
Doesn't Adam Silver look at? They got to do something about these buyouts.
It's the weirdest.
How
does it not?
If a team lets a guy go, it's got to count against you.
Yes.
It's got to be dead money against your cap.
Yes.
You got to be starting.
It should.
You got to be, you can't get him for $1 million. You got to at least pay the escrow on the $20 million that he was making, right? I mean, you can't do that. You can't allow these players to say, hey, we stink. We want to lose more. And the player said, okay, give me all my money and then let me go play where I want to.
Yeah.
It
doesn't make any sense.
No, it's not. It does not make any sense. But I don't think the NBA cares about these all-star teams, do they?
No. I think they care about personalities. They care about they're selling all the top.
If more great players assemble someplace, it's eventually as the playoffs go on, it'll be good for the TV numbers, and that's all they care about. They don't care about us poor saps in 24 other markets who have no chance. It's the no chance. This team, I got no chance. I'm 75 years old. I would have to outlive Sid to see this team win any games, to be a contender to win a title. The NBA is just there's no drama. There's no drama until you get to the semifinals until you get to the conference finals. There's no drama.
Oh,
it's just ridiculous.
Wolves are starting to get their super team back though, Patrick, because Beasley's back now, baby, and then Russell's coming back soon. That's your super team right there.
Yeah, it is. Well, anyway, Thibs. I got excited. I love Thibs. He's a grumpy old SOB who cares about nothing with basketball and winning tonight's game.
Yeah.
Tonight's game. All that matters, tonight's game. And so I saw that he beat the Bucks, and I said, wow, Thibs went into Milwaukee and beat the Bucks. Well, Giannis and Middleton didn't play, so that might have something to do with it. So
he's got them going okay, though. He's got the Knicks going.
Well, he's got his guards back. He had no point guards. He had no point guards, and I see they finally let Austin Rivers go, who then went someplace and got cut immediately.
Right.
But did you see that he had no point guards? He was down. Rose was out. The starter Peyton was out. The kid Quickly was out. So he had this Nick Linka or whatever his name is, who he doesn't like anyway, playing. And then it kept saying Austin Rivers, personal reasons. The personal reasons being, I hate Thibs. That was the personal reason. So,
that's hilarious.
But I think they're fifth in the standings. And they just had a tough schedule period, but they still aren't very good. But yeah, that'll be fun. Too bad it isn't after April 5th where we
get the fans back in there. I know
people in there so they could taunt Thibs and he probably wouldn't even hear them. Because he'd be too busy yelling at his fellas. So, but yeah, I don't think in the history of Minnesota we've ever seen anything like what's going on right now because of the confluence of all sports delayed by the pandemic.
Right.
We got the high school tournaments being played, and we're trying to. Meanwhile, the poor Star Trombone's trying to put out a sports section remotely.
Yeah,
it's alive.
Yeah, they are. Well, see how they do. See how the Wolves do tonight and Wednesday. Don't hold your breath. I will say I did a thing with Chris Finch, their new coach, on the podcast last week. He was really good, and he's got
he's like a coach.
He's got a tiny sliver of Thibs in him. Not the grumpiness, but the kind of let's go win this game. Let's I'm going to sit the rookie if he's not playing. Let's get the guys out here who can play this game.
Not like Ryan, but this guy's a true coach, I think, and that should help eventually. And the comparison between Ryan and Pitino is pretty hard to mistake. It's pretty hard to miss.
Yeah,
as far as how prepared they were when they got the job. Pitino's having fun with the idea that he couldn't recruit. He's taunting fans. Somebody said he had a tweet about he taught Ben Johnson everything he knew about recruiting.
Oh man,
something like that.
I'll have to look at that.
Meanwhile, Richard, he's making $1 million more than you are in New Mexico.
Yeah,
he's getting 1.9, and Pitino got 9. By the way, I guess we haven't found out how much the buyout they had to give him.
No, I haven't.
They gave him some of it, I'm sure.
They'd like to keep that quiet, I'm sure. All right. Patrick,
all right, play ball.
All right, sir.
Play ball or puck or whatever it is, because it's all going on right now.
All right, Patrick, take care. We'll see you.
All right, see you. Goodbye.
Let's end things with the cooler. Fox Sports North becoming Bally's Sports North later this week. What does that mean for you exactly, the viewer, the listener, as it were, right now? I'm not exactly sure, but little treat coming on Tuesday's show. Mike Diamond, a key executive for Fox Sports North, now to become Bally Sports North, will hopefully help answer that question, maybe get into a little bit of some of the questions you guys have had about streaming, things like that. So look for that on Tuesday's show, along with Randy Johnson. We'll hop on and talk a little bit more college hockey. 3 teams in the Frozen Four from Minnesota, none of them, however, being the Gophers. Thanks for listening today. Great stuff from Patrick Reusse as usual. We'll be back at it tomorrow, like I said. Sarah McClellan later this week. Talk some Twins later this week as well. Thanks for listening to Daily Delivery, and we'll catch you again on Tuesday.